Can a single scam destroy an entire economy? Absolutely. Look at Lebanon, a country bordered by Syria and Israel, where the biggest fraud in human history has happened. Once known as the Middle East Switzerland, Lebanon is now completely in ruins. Today, 80% of Lebanon's population is below the poverty line. Prices are skyrocketing, and inflation is at a shocking 171%. Just last year, you could trade $1 for 1,500 Lebanese pounds. Now it's a jaw-dropping 15,000 pounds. This crisis is unlike anything we've seen in the last 150 years, and its inflation is worse than Zimbabwe's and Venezuela's. Families are struggling to afford even the most basic things. The streets are filled with thousands of people protesting against a government that's looted them. It's shocking how things have changed in Lebanon in just a short time. Remember when Lebanon was the shining star of the Middle East? The whole world admired its bustling tourism and robust banking system. But then, in the blink of an eye, everything fell apart. How could such a strong country suddenly collapse like that? Actually, Lebanon's tale is filled with deception, corruption, and betrayal. In this video, we'll witness how just a handful of people jeopardized the future of Lebanon by betraying their country. And what's even heartbreaking is that they are still roaming freely and enjoying a life of luxury. What might have triggered this abrupt collapse? Let's rewind to 1975 when Lebanon was caught in a brutal civil war. It wasn't just any ordinary conflict. It was a heated battle between various religious and political groups, including Iran, Syria, and Israel. Over 15 long years, the losses were devastating. 150,000 lives gone, and more than 1 million forced out of their homes. But in 1989, a ray of hope emerged with the Taif Agreement. It aimed to restore peace by giving each group a role in governing Lebanon. Some focused on healthcare, others on energy, finance, or law. What's interesting is that the very same individuals who were once fighting with each other are now ruling the country together. With what looked like a stable government, hopes were high for a brighter future. But Lebanon's economy and infrastructure were shattered by the war, crying out for help. So the groups came together again, led by the mastermind, Riyad Salameh. But who is this man? He's the guy who planned one of the largest money scams ever. In 1993, Lebanon's prime minister chose Riyad to boost Lebanon's economy as head of the central bank. And that is how the tale of Lebanon's downfall started. Well, Riyad had only one goal: get lots of money for Lebanon. And how did he plan to do it? By taking foreign loans. Since Riyad had a background in banking, he knew the ins and outs of borrowing from big organizations like the IMF and the World Bank. He understood that to get loans from them, he had to show that Lebanon was financially stable. But how could he make Lebanon look strong? Well, he believed artificial currency valuation and high-return investments were the way to go. So as his first move, he set the exchange rate of the Lebanese pound at 1,500 pounds per dollar. This move impressed the IMF, who then started lending huge sums of money to Lebanon. Here's how Riyad made another clever move. He offered people a fixed interest rate of 8% if they put their money in Lebanese banks. Now, with this stable currency and guaranteed returns, money began flowing into Lebanon from all corners of the globe. People, even those living abroad, started trusting Lebanese banks and depositing their dollars and euros there. Meanwhile, bankers were playing with millions. It was like a flood of money coming in. To improve the country, the government invested in building infrastructure. And as a result, Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, became famous for its vibrant nightlife across the Middle East. Every year, tourists from around the world flocked to Lebanon to experience it. However, it wasn't long before Lebanon's economy took a nosedive, leading to a sudden downfall. In 2011, everything changed with the Arab Spring, a wave of protests and revolutions across the Middle East. Lebanon felt the impact as its economy took a hit. Suddenly, the aid that used to flow into Lebanon shifted to countries like Syria, Algeria, Yemen, and Libya. And then came the brutal civil war in Syria. Over 1.5 million Syrians sought refuge in Lebanon, burdening its economy even more. Riyad's financial plan, once a symbol of stability, now faced doubts from foreign investors who were now hesitant to invest in Lebanon. What Riyadh did next in the world of banking was truly extraordinary. He came up with a bold plan. If local banks invested in government treasury bills, they'd get a huge 40% return. And for regular people who kept their money in these banks, they'd get a hefty 15% return. Such high profits are unprecedented in any industry worldwide. So what happened next? People in Lebanon started selling their homes and hurried to deposit their money in local banks. Once again, money poured into Lebanon from all over, like Lebanon had discovered a magic formula for endless wealth. People thought their money was doubling in the bank, but the reality was quite different. Little did they know, the money went to just a few people involved in government. Riyadh was benefiting from the scheme for years. But scams have a way of coming to light. In 2019, people realized that something fishy is going on. Account statements look great, but when they tried to withdraw, banks gave excuses. When this happened, people started to feel uneasy. They talked about their worries on social media, and soon everyone was in a panic. People rushed to the banks, forming long lines outside. Protests erupted all over. While there were billions in the banks, people found their wallets empty. Some even tried breaking into banks, but there wasn't much cash to be found. Riyadh, the mastermind behind the scam, had disappeared from Lebanon months ago with all the money. In just a month, Lebanon's economy crashed. The value of the Lebanese pound dropped drastically. Before, you could get 1,500 Lebanese pounds for $1. Now it was for 1 lakh. It was complete chaos. As things reached a breaking point, Lebanon's government was struggling to even pay its employees, making it tough for people to afford basic necessities. 30% of the population couldn't afford 2 meals a day. Lebanon, once known as the Switzerland of the Middle East, was now facing its worst financial crisis ever. It was heartbreaking to see Lebanon in such a situation. Teachers, police officers, and government workers went on strike, frustrated with the worsening conditions. With unemployment and poverty on the rise, crime rates doubled, adding to the chaos. In desperation, some were risking their lives, trying to escape to Turkey and Europe through any means possible. But who's responsible for this disaster? While millions suffered, the wealthy elites continued to live in luxury. None of the people who cheated were caught. The mastermind, Riyadh, is still roaming free in Lebanon, enjoying all the perks and privileges. Shockingly, leaked documents from 2021 reveal that Riyadh pocketed a staggering $300 million from his scheme. Sadly, it's often the wealthy who escape punishment, leaving the poor and vulnerable to suffer. The actions of politicians, bureaucrats, and religious leaders seem almost unbelievable. But this isn't just a local issue, it's a global problem. When those meant to uphold the law break it, corruption spreads like wildfire, affecting everyone from street vendors to big business owners. With corruption so deeply rooted, is there any hope for change? Can any person or country truly prosper if they're corrupt? Write your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for the latest geopolitical news and fascinating economies.